So I recently started playing Divinity Original Sin 2, and here's how that's been going. As soon as I load up a new game, I'm immediately faced with the age-old rite of passage known as character creation. I decide to play as Edgy Goth Cannibal Girl, not to be confused with Edgy Goth Dead Guy. For build preset I go with Rogue, and I start the game. After a cutscene that probably mentions something useful, I start out tied up on a boat. As I wake up, I'm greeted by a Magister lady who tells me to meet her upstairs and unties me. Before I go upstairs, I go through a quick tutorial that involves killing a Magister, freeing a prisoner, and killing said prisoner. Once I get upstairs, Magister lady tells me to go talk to some other Magister to be registered in the ship's manifest. She also informs me this ship is on the way to some place called Fort Joy. I can't wait. Fort Joy sounds like a great place. It literally has joy right in the name. Spoiler alert, not a great place. Excited to head to this Fort Joy, I make my way to other Magister dude, meeting some of the other Origin characters along the way. First up, not Lowe's, who in the greatest plot twist in Shutter Island turns out to be Lowe's. I'm then acquainted with Beast, a dwarf who's even cooler than his name suggests. After a quick chat about the ship, I move on to meet the Red Prince, or as I like to call him, the Royal Red Asshat. Lastly, I meet Ifan, a man whose levels of edginess come close to that of my own. I finally make my way over to other Magister guy and meet creepy woman from the intro, who breaks her unbreakable collar and does some weird voodoo shit that sets the ship on fire and knocks me out. I wake up from my nap, loot everything inside, and decide it's probably time for me to get the hell out of there. On my way out, I discover this ship has been turned into the production of a hentai scene, making me want to get out even more, but some kid wants me to go save everyone first. I quickly go and save the day, but in doing so fail to get off the boat on time. Luckily, it appears I have a mysterious daddy watching over me, as I hear a strange voice and get pulled to the coast of Reaper's Eye, the island where Fort Joy is located. On my way to Fort Killjoy, I run into the Royal Red Asshat again, and as much as I despise him, I decide to team up with him for now. I get to Fort Killjoy, and after watching Big Shot Magister Alexander execute one of his own, I run into Gawain, who tells me he can get me off this island if I find him some teleportation gloves. Now I don't trust Gawain, but I do like the sound of teleportation gloves, so I go find them. During my search, I'm reunited with the hunk of a dwarf that is Beast, who helps me make easy work of some crocodiles, one of whom had eaten the gloves. Don't ask me how I got them back. I put on the gloves and avoid Gawain for the rest of the game. I go to find Stinktail, a lizard dreamer who appears to be dead. I wonder how that happened, but luckily one perk of playing as Edgy Goth Cannibal Chick is I don't need them alive to find out what they know. I eat his leg and find out I need to speak to a guy named Griff about some lone wolves. I find Griff, resist the urge to offer him a genital shish kebab and just give him 50 gold instead. He tells me there's a lone wolf by the name of Zaleskar outside of Fort Killjoy. Continuing my exploration of Fort Killjoy in hopes to find a way out, I run into Lowe's again, who is acting real sus, but if nothing else having her along should be interesting, so she joins the party. I then save some elf girl from this twat named Burrow, and in doing so run into Ifan. Elf girl tells me to follow her to a safe place, but before I do so I invite Ifan to join my party. It turns out my party is full, but this is great news because it gives me a reason to finally ditch the Royal Red Asshat. Ifan joins the party and starts his journey of dying every other fight. I follow Elf Girl and after a quick chat with Good Boy of the Year Buddy, head into a cave. In this cave I meet a blind elf by the name of Sahela. Lowe's wants to talk to Sahela alone. She's acting sus again, but what's the worst that could happen, right? Well, as it turns out, Lowe's is possessed. I knew bringing her along was going to be fun. After stopping Lowe's from ripping her to shreds, the elf tells me she has a friend who knows of a way out of Fort Killjoy. But of course said friend had to go and get captured by Griff, so we go talk to Griff, prove that he's captured the wrong person and free Amiro, who tells us of a secret tunnel. I find myself a shovel and dig up this secret tunnel where I find a bunch of fire slugs. Luckily, Lowe's is uniquely talented when it comes to making stuff wet, making them a lot easier to deal with. I fight my way through the fortress, making time for some art theft on the way, as you do, and eventually manage to make my way out. Once outside the fort, I run into Zaleskar, who appears to be undead, or at least was. He's not very talkative, so now he's just dead. Exploring the rest of the island, I run into some pigs that, as Sabine so keenly notices, are on fire. Even Lowe's talent for making stuff wet can't help these pigs, but conveniently they appear to be immune to fire, so I move on. After a run with some stinky salamanders, I stumble upon a cave which appears to be the vault of some dead person. I've barely made my way into this cave before running into Trumptoy, the guardian of this vault, who actually seems pretty chill, if you ignore the several attempts to kill me. After several fights with Trumptoy, and more art theft obviously, I make my way into the vault, where I find several jars, one of which seems to contain Trumptoy's soul. I decide to free Trumptoy, loot the vault, and leave, completely forgetting about the other jars. I then come upon a maze with a tower that seems to have belonged to the same dead person. Because I have Dead Person's ring from the vault, the gargoyle at the entrance kindly teleports me through the maze, but I fuck up by talking to a statue that teleports me back. Now I have to solve the maze, which I do by cheating. I mean making smart use of the tools at my disposal, aka using teleportation gloves and my cat familiar to teleport everybody through the gates. I enter the tower, kill some skeletons, and leave. After checking out the beach and finding a chest that's protected by some voodoo shit, I remember I didn't loot the skeletons, and return to notice they're alive again. Since I can't be bothered to redo the fight, I decide to let them stay that way. I explore the island further, running into a deep dweller and summon dead, but nothing we can't handle, except for Ifan, who dies by no fault of my own. I drag Ifan's soul back into his body and move on. I come upon a statue and suddenly find myself in a place I can only describe as somewhere. Here I finally meet the mysterious daddy who saved me from the water, who it turns out is actually God Daddy, as he introduces himself as Tursendelius, god of the elves. God Daddy tells me I'm godwoken or something, preaches some more and sends me back to Reaper's Eye, but not before teaching me how to bless things. Sadly, the stupid collar I have on keeps me from using Source, which means I can't actually show off my new party trick. I decide to free a dragon because, you know, nobody's ever come to regret those words. He lets me know there's some curse upon him, and in order to truly free him, I need to go kill some evil witch lady. I go to Witch Lady's cave and take her out, which only costs me 1 Ifan, but what else is new at this point? I loot Witch Lady and her pals, finding her wand, which I bring back to my dragon friend who uses it to free himself of his curse. At this point, my loot goblin self has gone way too long without being able to sell stuff, so I start aimlessly wandering around the island in hopes of finding somebody to trade with, eventually coming upon an encampment where I make an absolutely terrible segue into the end of this video, where I tell you can watch me play games like this as well as other games live on twitch.tv/slughorus, but more importantly, have a great day.